Howdy howdy, my name is Maddie, and a fun fact about me is that my very first job was working at Mickey D's. I was there for about a year before I decided I'd rather sleep with a bear every night before bed and quit. But before I dive into the horror stories, let me tell you about what I'm working on real quick. I'm working on a pet commission for a friend. I use acrylic paint, and I also get my canvases from Walmart since I can afford them more easily. And if you like how I paint animals, I have prints available in my shop if you want to take a look. Now enough of that. Let's get into the terrible stories from Mickey D's. Like I said, my first job was at a Mickey D's. I started working there when I was literally freshly 16. I'd actually gone in for an interview for a first time when I was 15 or so, and I completely botched that interview when the manager who was interviewing me asked how much change I should give, and I told them the wrong amount. To be fair, it was my very, very first job interview, and I was super nervous, and I sputtered out the wrong amount, and then went, no, wait, it's actually $475, which was the correct amount, but it did not impress the hiring manager. I was not hired at that time, but when I was driving by one day after I had turned 16, I saw a giant gleaming "We're hiring" sign. And as if I couldn't take no for an answer, I went inside, filled out a job application, went in for an interview, and got the job. Yippee! It's my first day, and I'm put to work on the second window, where I'm handing out food to people. And I have to remember all of the orders for the cars that are in the drive-thru, check the bags to make sure the food is correct in each bag, and, now that I've worked a drive-thru at a bunch of jobs, it's pretty easy, but to be thrown in on the lunch rush on something they literally didn't train me for was really overwhelming at first. I remember an old lady pulled up to me, and all she had ordered was an ice cream cone, and so I hand her out a cone with a few napkins, and she takes it and looks at the cone and gives it a little bewildered look and doesn't drive away. "I want a cup," she tells me, and I smile and nod, and I walk to the other side of the store where the ice cream cups were. But by the time it took me the 10 steps to walk back and forth and hold out my hand to her with the cup, she again looks at me like I did something wrong, hands me back the ice cream cone, and says, "I don't want it anymore." And she drives away, leaving me with a handful of ice cream, turning back towards my coworkers asking what I had done wrong. Welcome to fast food, where it seems like the general population has their brains turned off and nothing will make sense as long as you're on the premises. Something I found really frustrating was the amount of old people that came into my Mickey D's specifically. My Mickey D's was placed right outside of a retirement village. So during the mornings, we would be overrun by an insane amount of crotchety old people. And they would root through the trash, walk through the drive-thru picking up loose coins. Oh, the catcalling. I have never been catcalled or approached by anyone my age nearly as much as I have been by the old people at Mickey D's. One of these old men had made it his personal goal to get free food from our store at all times, which is and was the most obnoxious thing a customer can do. Listen, you are more than obligated to get the food the way you ordered it. You pay for it, you get it the way you want it. But when you start to order your food purposefully complicated every time you order it and insist it's been made wrong, and then insist you should get your next meal for free because we screwed up, that's when I take an issue with it. Because you're entitled to get a replacement for the food you messed up because you paid for it. You should get it the way you want it. But it's people who've worked in fast food, you know what I'm talking about. So to set the story up a little bit, it's around 3 in the afternoon. Half of our staff is called out, meaning the 3 people were so spread thin doing jobs of 2 people at once. The first window was taking orders for both lanes and charging cards. My coworker up front was taking the walk-in orders and bagging the walk-in orders, as well as keeping the entire lobby clean, leaving me to bag the food for the drive-thru, make the french fries, and hand the food out the window. And most of those are the jobs of 1 to 2 people. Suffice it to say, we were a little bit busy and flustered, and then he pulls up. We're just gonna call him Mr. Old Man. Mr. Old Man pulls up, and I hand him out his food and try to send him on his way, but then he slowly looks through his bag of food, pulls out a burger that has been heavily modified, and tells me there's no mayonnaise on it. I go to grab the burger from him and apologize for it not being the way he wanted it, but he pulls it away and says, "Oh no, I'm going to keep this. You'll just throw it out anyways." Fair enough. If he wanted it, I'd rather it not go to waste, but it's usually a sign they intentionally ordered wrong, or they just want something for free and it bothers me since they're wasting my and my coworkers' time. "Alrighty, sir, we'll remake your order. Can you just park around the front and we'll bring it out to you? There's a line and we really need to keep it moving," I told him. To which he starts to berate me, saying, and I quote, "I am never going around the front to park ever again. Last time I did that, you guys forgot about me for 15 minutes and I had to come in and yell at you. I'm staying right here until you make my burger correctly." And he puts his car in park and stares at me defiantly, to which I turn around and ask for the new burger from the kitchen. I figure I could make some more french fries or bag some more orders while Mr. Old Man waits, blocking all of the traffic, because Mr. Old Man wasn't planning on moving. But then he starts banging on the window for me to come back over to him. And I open the window, and I am again berated by Mr. Old Man. "Did you know that you are the worst Mickey D's in the whole world? Every time I come here, you always get my order wrong. What are you, stupid?" By this time, his burger was ready. So I left and bagged it, because, I don't want to be berated anymore. And I went to hand it to him, and, I was like, "Sorry about that, here you go." And I hand him his food, and he again thumbs through it very slowly, and I'm figuring he's gonna drive away since he has his burger, plus the one we messed up. And so I'm back to making fries and bagging food, waiting for him to drive away, when he starts knocking on the window again. "I want my next meal for free, since you keep messing up," he tells me. Now, I don't know if the places you work for are sticklers for the rules, but mine was. My Mickey D's was a really, really strict one. And it wasn't corporate, it was just, someone's privately owned Mickey D's. And one of our rules that our Mickey D's had was that only the managers are allowed to give away free food or make a voucher that food will be free or could be free in the future. And usually we could do this if they gave us their receipt and we wrote our name on it, gave it back to them, and then when they came back, they would have to bring back that signed receipt. I was not a manager at the time. I was a crew trainer, so I had a different shirt, but I was not a manager, so I couldn't do that, and I didn't want to break the rules because I'd only been there for like 4 to 5 months. "I'm sorry, sir, I can't actually do that. Only managers have the authority, and I'm not a manager." "Well, then go get a manager," he orders me. There aren't any here," I say, really sadly and nervously because I hate confrontation. "Well, then I'm not leaving," he says, folding his arms across his chest. Realizing this old man is not going to leave, and there is an insane line backed up behind him, I just ask for his receipt back. I write "something for free, Maddie" on it, and then I tell him he can't get anything if he doesn't bring it in. And finally he leaves and I can go back to my business. Now, I had almost forgotten about him as the months went by. Everything was peaceful until one night shift he comes in and I'm working up front, so I get the pleasure of helping him. And he tells me he'd come in a week before. He had not. It was like 2 months since I had last seen him. And he's telling me that some dude had helped him, and he said he could get free food. The dude had said he could get free food, and he just doesn't have his receipt, but he couldn't remember the name of this male manager, and he was very clear that it was a man who helped him the last week. He was definitely a man, but he didn't have the magic free food receipt, and so he didn't know which manager it was. And so finally, I just ask what the manager looked like, and he points to me and says, "It was you." And I just stood there, looking at him in dead silence. It must have been a very loud silence, since the moment I was about to tell him I had caught him in his lie, the night manager rushes over and tells me to go make more french fries while he gets Mr. Old Man his undeserved free food. I didn't see him again though, which was very nice. Also, I'm sure every fast food restaurant has a middle-aged woman who orders like 4 drinks with either lots of ice or no ice. And if you don't get it exactly the way they want it, they will make your life a living hell. We had 2 that would come into our store every other day or so, and somehow, They both absolutely adored me. One had a son that was dating my best friend at the time, so he would yell at her if she ever yelled at me, and the other had a car I could easily recognize if I was by a camera. So I would always say hello and ask if she wanted her four, I believe it was the 4 iced teas with no ice lady. She would always say yes and be extra happy about it, but if I didn't know either of them were at the drive-thru and took their orders like a regular person, they would always tell me exactly how they wanted it, and they would always tell me exactly how their day would be ruined if I messed up. And then the moment they would drive up to the window and see me, their moods would instantly do a 180, and they wouldn't feel the need to remind me how their drinks should be. It shouldn't be a nice change of pace when a customer doesn't yell at you, but I guess I'll take my wins where I can get them. Speaking of wins in the workforce, well, I was usually the one to have to clean the restrooms during slow times. Whenever someone decided to be extra heinous in the Mickey D's bathrooms, I never had to clean it. I found out this little piece of information late one night when a man emerged from the bathroom telling me that someone had smeared chocolate brownie batter all over the walls of the men's restrooms. Horrified when I told someone about this, I was told not to worry, our poor dishwasher was the one designated to do it. It always made me feel kind of bad that a college English major working at a Mickey D's was the one to do it, but I was not going to volunteer for that, so I'm very sorry. For some reason, cleaning up dog crap never seemed as bad when I later worked at a dog kennel, probably because dogs don't know any better, and they're just sweet little guys. Another late night, I was working at the second window, and it was pretty slow. Nothing much had happened, and we got an order for a singular ice cream cone. The car pulled up, and I was still in the process of making it. It was a really nice night out for Arizona, so I had left the window open, and, on top of that, our Mickey D's didn't have air conditioning, so you bet your ass I was gonna leave that window open. And then I turned around and a stranger was just walking through the back in street clothes. I just kind of assumed it was a coworker coming to check on a newly posted schedule until I looked at the car full of giggling teenage boys and put 2 and 2 together. The first one who had walked out the door by now had jumped in through the window and walked around for whatever reason. I gave the cone to the car and made sure to shut the window before telling my manager what had just happened. As I was telling her, the kid walks back into the store, grabs a cup for water, fills it up with the stupidest grin I have ever laid my eyes on. That's him, I tell her, and she drops the cup she was holding to stock the dispenser, jumps over the counter, and gives chase to him. And apparently, the two had ran about 2 blocks from the store before his buddies had driven up and, let him into the back of the car and drove off with him. But that's not where our story ends. Oh no. Because apparently, the next day while I was out, the friends had come in to apologize for their first friend. As the story goes, he was arrested for streaking at a local Walmart a little ways down the street. I'm really glad I was not at Walmart. And those are unfortunately just a few of the stories I have from working at Mickey D's. And if you liked what you heard and you want to hear more from me, I got more stories. I had a stalker coworker and everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed my video. If you want to see any of my comics for free, check out my website, MattyBites.com. There you can get website exclusive updates on future videos, comic plans, and so much more. There, of course, are all the comics I have worked on except for a few shop exclusive comics, Puppy Love. Check out my personal favorite, Saltwater and Taffy. And if you want to support an artist a step further, you can take a look at my shop where you'll find handmade goods by me and my friend, as well as my comic Puppy Love parts 1 through 3. I hope you all have a great day, and thank you so much again for watching.